Hi, I'm Lisa Bedford, the Survival Mom, and our topic today is how to be a prepper. Maybe you have watched episodes of Doomsday Preppers, or maybe you have read newspaper or magazine articles about preppers in your town or in your part of the country, and maybe a part of you was a little intrigued by what they're doing, and maybe another part of you was kind of repelled because some of these shows and occasionally articles manage to make very sane people seem a little off. And I just want to explain what a prepper is. It's something that anybody can do, and you may already have taken some steps to be a prepper without even realizing it. First of all, Tom Martin, who is one of the founders of the American Preppers Network, says that anyone who intentionally prepares for the future is a prepper. And so I always say, heck, if you are bundling your kids up and buying, winter clothes at the end of the winter season for next year, or if you are making sure that when you walk out, you have jackets and umbrellas and you have an extra baby bottle, whatever, that is being prepared, isn't it? And yet when everyday people do that, we really don't think anything of it. It's just when people look a little further ahead than this afternoon's weather that we call them crazy. So, are preppers survivalists? Well, yes and no. You can be a prepper and not be a survivalist, and you can be a survivalist and not be a prepper. Traditionally, survivalists are people who lived and want to live rural, isolated lifestyles. They just like that. Maybe it's the challenge of living off the grid in the wilderness. Maybe it is just a desire they've had to just be out in one with nature. But just because they are survivalists doesn't mean necessarily that they have 3 months worth of food or they have taken steps to be prepared for something other than maybe just a really bad winter or maybe a drought. Preppers, as we have come to know them, tend to be urban and suburban. We live in urban and suburban areas because that's where our income is. It's really hard for a family who has a career that is based in a city or, even a smaller city to suddenly just sell everything and move out into the wilderness or move to a little, farmhouse someplace because income matters, doesn't it? So you can be a prepper, but preppers usually look further ahead and say, you know what, maybe we don't know exactly what's going on, but there is something going on and we really don't like it. And so we are just going to be better prepared. It really is easy to be a prepper. Just become aware of the potential dangers of all different types and focus on the most likely dangers that would affect you and your family. Cover the basics first. There is no reason to have a huge arsenal of weaponry and ammunition if you have no food or if you have no water and no water source that is reliable. That doesn't make sense. Learn from and network with others. It really is okay to go to websites and forums and learn. That's how I got started. In fact, I didn't even know I was a prepper. I thought I was just being kind of smart. Personally, I still think that. What should you prepare for first? Well, if your gut feeling after watching the news over the last few years is that something just ain't right, it's okay to just jump in and start preparing. But typically, people will prepare for a likely natural disaster, a likely extreme weather event, or a man-made disaster. And don't forget personal disasters. What if someone in your family is diagnosed with some terrible illness, or they are injured and they can't work for a long time or maybe ever? Those are the reasons to prepare. It doesn't have to all be, a zombie apocalypse. Prioritize those crises. Once you have an idea of what you really should prepare for, figure out what's the most likely. And frankly, if we're entering tornado season and hurricane season and you live in those areas, I think that would be something to prepare for right away. And maybe focus on an economic collapse or an invasion of America by some country. You can put that a little bit lower on your list of priorities, I think. Educate yourself, seek out reliable resources. Just because someone calls themselves an expert, it doesn't mean that they have every answer for you. A while back when I was on Doomsday Preppers, I was in their pilot episode. They had an expert who, I think I've covered this before, maybe on a video, who was critical of me because I kept saying, there's really no point in having much of an evacuation plan if you live in Phoenix, because we're surrounded by hundreds of acres, miles of desert. And so what one expert may say is a must, you may look at your circumstance and say, well, that's not even possible. I mean, frankly, if you and your family are just living day to day and you have your EBT card and life has never been more difficult financially, don't worry about the 1 year's worth of food supply or the $300 Berkey water filter. There are less expensive ways of getting prepared. And I always tell people when I speak around the country that if you are overly stressed about this and you are truly losing sleep, and you're just really having some anxiety attacks over this, maybe part of the reason is that you're listening to the survival experts who are telling you to do things, and you have to have things that just aren't possible right now for you. Preparing for a hurricane is different from preparing for an economic collapse. So just maintain your focus, and when you feel that you have indeed prepared well for one event, then go to the next item on your list. It really is that easy. You can get survival book downloads. Many of them are free. In fact, if you go to my website, thesurvivalmom.com, at the very top, you'll see a tab that says resources. Pull it down, and there's a long list of things that you can print out for free. You really can get a lot of great information at no cost whatsoever. Check out websites and forums around the country at places like Cabela's and REI, different kinds of stores. There very often are survival-related classes. And as more and more people are getting into raising their own food and growing their own food, it's very easy to find gardening classes and classes that will help you raise backyard chickens or rabbits or whatever your HOA or your town allows. So none of that is crazy so far, is it? It really isn't. Now here are a few reasons that people are preparing that might be a little bit more out there. Some people believe in a planet X, and this would be a planet that is nearing the Earth. In fact, maybe it already did near last year, and it was going to cause all kinds of problems. Some people believe in chemtrails, and I don't know, maybe this is the truth, I don't know. But these chemtrails left behind by airplanes going across the United States are causing all kinds of problems, from the disappearance of honeybees to, weird weather goings on. Peak oil, some people believe that that our world has reached a peak at how much oil can be pumped out of it, and it's downhill from there. And because our society depends so much on oil and oil products for all kinds of things, that we are really headed back toward caveman days. Pole shifts. Some people believe that instead of the North and South poles being right here, they're going to shift. Wouldn't that be interesting? I'd almost like that to happen. I'm really curious to see what the results would be, quite frankly. A UN takeover, a civil war, the Yellowstone caldera erupting and basically ending life as we know it. The Mayan calendar thing happened last year. So there are all kinds of reasons to prepare, and they basically go from very logical to maybe a little too far out there for your comfort. I don't know. So starting with the basics is how you start to be a prepper. First, it comes with information, and then you start looking at how can we store water? Do we have a reliable water source? And how would we not only store that water, but how would we make sure it was pure to drink? And food. Storing maybe 3 months. 3 months worth of food is doable for most people. And most people would have the room for it, even if you have to put stuff under beds and maybe get rid of a bunch of junk, get rid of a bunch of the kids' toys and put the food, in the toy boxes instead. But it can be done. And it can actually be done on a budget. You don't have to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars for a 3-month food supply for 4 people. Shelter. How secure is your home? If bad times really do hit, and if there really is some kind of collapse and neighbors turn on neighbors, do you have a way of securing what you own? And do you have a way of staying secure yourself? And yes, I actually am alluding to firearms and having enough ammunition if you ever need it. And of course, if you live in an area like I do that is, quite safe, still it's kind of hard to imagine that you might have to fend off people with a gun, but like a lot of people say, it's better to have one and not need it than to need one and not have it. Warmth. Have a plan for staying warm in the wintertime and cool enough in the summertime. Both of those really matter, because one of the components of a lot of these worst case scenarios is living off the grid involuntarily. And so you really need to have a plan. How would we do that? Don't become unbalanced. That really is huge. You don't want something, the whole prepper thing, to just control your mind and your waking hours and cause nightmares when you do sleep. So stay balanced with this, because you still have to plan for birthday parties, right? And there still are the holidays coming up this fall, and there still are family vacations or staycations. So you want to make sure you remain balanced. Your loved ones really are counting on you to be that rock. And if you start going over the edge, that is not going to be a good scene in your house at all. Trust me. So keep track of your sanity. Do some self-check sometimes. Are you losing sleep? Are you spending too much time focusing on this? Are your relationships suffering? Has this become your number one focus above all? Are you living kind of on the fringe and maybe you're starting to scare yourself? Don't be an island. There are meetup groups in most parts of the country where you can get together with other people on subjects about survival and preparedness and wilderness and camping, backyard chickens and gardening, all kinds of subjects. And I would encourage you to go to meetup.com and start looking around your area. And that's a good way. You don't have to tell them you're a prepper. You don't have to tell them what you're doing. Just network and learn. Clubs related to prepper topics. There are forums and chat rooms. There are classes of all types. And you really can find trustworthy people, and you can slowly build a relationship that is built on mutual trust. And that does take a while. So the pros, you may end up with some prepper friendships and allies. One of the biggest surprises to me since I started the Survival Mom 4 years ago is the number of friends that I have made. I never expected that. You may end up in a very solid, trust-based community, and thus you and your family will be stronger than if you were on your own. And you'll also gain a variety of skills and knowledge, experiences that are not only valuable for coming hard times, but it's also kind of fun. I mean, we've had fun learning how to dehydrate food and learning, what freeze-dried chicken tastes like in a chicken salad sandwich. The downside of this, it is hard to know who to trust. There is a rule called the 80-20 rule, and that just means that in any given scenario where people are concerned, 20% of the people will do 80% of the work. And so if you decide that you want to join together with others that are survival minded, you may find yourself in a group where some of you are doing all the work and some people are not. You might lose friendships over this, to be frank. And you might open the door to unprepared leeches. And that is one reason why an awful lot of people who would say that they are preppers keep all of this just pretty hush-hush. Why isn't everyone a prepper? Well, denial, peer pressure, fear, confusion. They're just uninformed. They're more interested in Kim Kardashian and her baby than they are with really serious headlines and things that are in the news. Some people just procrastinate. Some people, like feeling superior to you. Gosh, what are you doing? You just are such a fraidy cat, I'm just so much better than you because I'm living on the edge. And some people are just plain stupid. Okay, I cover these in greater detail in my YouTube video called My Number One Most Asked Question. And you can hear more about it there. How not to be a prepper. Ooh. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. My gosh, I get emails all the time that are just crazy, and some of them surpass crazy. So don't believe everything you read on the internet or in emails that you might get. Be logical with your priorities and stay balanced. Don't model your preps after those that you see on TV. Those people are not you. They're not living with your set of circumstances. Don't become complacent either. Always find something new to learn and to do. You don't have money? Well, then take a free class. Watch some YouTube videos just to gain some additional knowledge and pick up some skills. Purchasing power does not equal preparedness. A lot of people say, hey, I can't prepare because I'm flat broke. There's a lot you can do, actually. How not to be a prepper, those are just a few ways. I really think that this lifestyle has enriched my family and me. and we are better off because of it. So how to be a prepper? First of all, just start with being aware that maybe you should be a prepper, and then go from there. Hope this has been helpful. I'm Lisa Bedford, the Survival Mom. My website is www.thesurvivalmom.com,